Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast, the show for women who are seeking more fulfillment in life and simply not getting it from their current situation. We focus specifically on careers, but hey, we spend a lot of time in our careers, so making changes here will definitely create an impact in your overall happiness. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and my mission is to empower women to succeed. I believe that in order to powerfully own your career, you must decide and claim that you want to sit in the driver's seat. You must know that you deserve better and be willing to not only do the requisite work, but be willing to go out on a limb to ensure your success. Each episode focuses on profiling a leader who is clearly demonstrating ownership of their career. Join me and my guests as we explore career journeys and bring you actionable strategies to use to get into the driver's seat for your career. Because ultimately, your career is your responsibility. Let's get into the show. Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I am super pleased to be joined today by communications expert and leadership coach, Tracy Imm. What I love about Tracy is that she says she teaches women how to be better leaders. For me, that means driver's seat. And you know I'm all about the driver's seat. Tracy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Simone. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so glad that our paths have crossed. We are kindred spirits, sisters.
Absolutely, absolutely. You guys are going to find out that we totally are when you hear all of Tracy's wonderful answers and wisdom that she is going to be sharing today. So, Tracy, tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you're currently doing.
Sure. So as you said, I am a communications expert and a leadership coach, and I really focus on teaching women how to be better leaders. And I came to this sort of realization after a lot of personal growth and development work and a very successful career at a very early age in corporate communications, in the corporate structure, working in many different industries and in different functions, not always in corporate communications. And I'm so blessed and fortunate that I've had the career that I've had. And I really feel like where I am right now, it's my time to give back, and it's my time to become that teacher and that coach to women in the workforce, and to really show up as their best selves at work and in life, really.
I love that. I so love that. What would you say is the career defining moment for you that signified that you were in the driver's seat?
Sure. So I've had a couple of them. One of the first jobs that I had out of college, I was very blessed. I thought I wanted to be an on-air sports broadcaster. And back in the day, there really weren't that many on-air sports broadcasters. And so while I got a job offer, it wasn't really going to pay that much. And my career counselor at college had said, "You've had all these leadership experiences in college. Why don't you go to the banks? They have these management training programs where they teach you how to become an executive, basically, when you're 21. And so that's what I did. And I was very blessed, and I was mentored from a very young age to really be in the driver's seat through that opportunity. And then I've had a couple other ones in my career where one started at a conversation at a water fountain. There was an executive that was leading a sales and marketing team. I knew he was a runner. I didn't know him. I was a runner. And I just approached him at the water fountain and I said, if there's ever a job in your department, I would love to work in your department. And I really put myself out there. And I'm sure he could have been like, who is this crazy young person talking to me at the water fountain? But sure enough, I did end up going to work for him twice, actually, in his career. And he became a great mentor to me. And then through that, I met his boss, who was also a very inspirational leader to me. And I had the very same conversation with him. And I just put myself out there and I said, I want to work for you. I don't know how it's going to happen or what job. And you may not even have anything. And sure enough, 6 months later, he created a job. And I ended up working for him for 6 months. He had a business need. He knew I had a communications degree. He had seen me in action for about 3 years. And I had developed a reputation with him that I could get things done, and I was smart, and I was a hard worker. And so a lot of times I think, we are in the driver's seat, we just don't realize it.
Absolutely. I love what you said, because to me it was flagging, ask for what you want.
Yes.
And when you asked for what you want, you got it. Plus, you got a sponsor, which I think is a big thing about careers that people don't know about. Can you talk a little bit about sponsors in your career?
Yeah. So for me, most of my sponsors were white male engineers, which is not what I look like or who I am. And so I was very open to being sponsored and mentored by people who didn't look like me. And so sometimes your sponsor may present themselves as somebody that is the polar opposite of you. I'm very much a writer and a creatrix, and very high energy. And, I always felt very blessed that these folks took me under their wing. And, as I kind of grew in my career, I felt very responsible for sponsoring and mentoring people behind me, because I was blessed with those people making time for me, coaching me, giving me advice, pulling me aside saying, you really probably shouldn't have said it that way in the meeting, or things of that nature. And so I really think sponsorship is very important. And I also think it's important for it to happen organically. As opposed to walking up to somebody and saying, will you be my sponsor?
Absolutely.
Like, that just doesn't work, right? And so really looking, and most of my experience has been in corporate, is looking in the organization to say, who do I admire and respect? Who is in a position that I would like to be in someday? I'm really looking up to them and then observing their behaviors, right? How do they carry themselves? Do they run a good meeting? All of those things that make a good leader. Are they inclusive? Do they make everyone feel like they have a voice at the table and their opinions matter? Those were all very important things to me as I was kind of coming up through the ranks. And so as I became higher and higher in the organization, going all the way to the C level, I always wanted to make sure that I acted the way that I wanted to be treated. When I was lower in the organization, I may not have had the title or the salary or the whatever. And so it's really around that, I think.
Love that. So building on that, what would you say is the formula for owning your career?
I think you have to take 100% responsibility for what is going to happen to you. And I have to be honest with you, I didn't always do that in my career. And it really wasn't until I did a lot of personal growth and development work, became much more self-aware, was able to define what my values were, and I was able to then seek out those opportunities that I wanted. And I think another thing is, many times it's really easy to be the victim and to blame others. But you have to understand the law of cause and effect. And what was your contribution to the situation if it didn't go so well? What was my part, right? And so for the longest time, I swirled in a lot of victim and conflict energy that really didn't serve me, until one day I woke up and I was like, you know what? You really have to know when to leave, and you have to know how to exit gracefully. Like when the work environment is not the right environment for you, even if you don't have something to go to immediately, it's really important to have that self-awareness. It could just be, and some of my coaching clients, when I go through the exercises with them of like defining what their values are and their core values and what they kind of draw the line with, if you're in an environment where integrity is one of your core values, and I don't know, I'm just saying, maybe there's some corruption, or maybe there's some things that you just really don't like what you're seeing, it's time to step away, right? And having that confidence in yourself that you do have the education and the skill set. And that's when you really, truly do own your career is, these days, layoffs and downsizings and mergers and acquisitions, like we're not going to work for the same company like maybe our grandparents did and get the gold watch and the pension, right? And so you are your own brand and you really have to protect that. You've got to really be responsible about how you show up on social media. You've got to really define what it is that are your gifts and your talents that you're here to share with the world. And so that's a lot of what I do with my clients. And I teach, and I teach a lot of this with my students. In fact, I've written a book. It's called Brave Girl's Guide to the to Work That You Love, right? And that kind of, the genesis of all of that was the career advice I was giving to my students in the women's college that I taught at. These were women that had been in the workforce, had their associate's degree, were getting their bachelor's degree, and they were really reinventing themselves at 40, 45 years old, and wanted to be viewed a different way, and teaching them to own their career and to find that work that they love and to really, step out and be visible. So that's kind of a long answer, but it's critical. It's critical. It's critical. And that's why I love your podcast. I love your events. And I'm just like, more people need to know this.
Yeah, I was just thinking that when you said about owning your career, and so many things were resonating with me because I believe very similar to what you were saying. I mean, all valuable. And what I love the most is you saying your career is your responsibility. I have that in my book. I say that in the events that I do because I think we need to take ownership and not be in that victim mode where we get stuck and we can't take action because we're so busy feeling comfortable and stuck, and we don't have any options. And the fact is we do have options. So
we absolutely do. We absolutely do. We absolutely do. And, a lot of times what I'll tell people is, what's the next logical step for you? Right? So you don't have to bite off the whole elephant. You can stay in that environment for a while, but if you're not happy with the circumstances in your environment and the results you're getting, it's time to move on. It's time to do something different, whether it's just sitting down and doing that core values exercise, or it's, looking at how you contributed to a situation that didn't go so well. And, our greatest lessons come to us in our greatest kind of disappointments a lot of times, and I talk about that in my second book because I wrote a second book, and it's, I was laid off several times and for a variety of reasons, and I stayed stuck in the shame and the guilt around what happened. And it's very freeing once you conquer your shame and you really share your story and you really say, this is what happened to me. I didn't handle it very well, but here's what I learned, and here's what I want to share with others. And, Brene Brown is an expert in shame, and she was very instrumental in helping me through, just through her work, understanding kind of what that does to you. And so I always say, she's my spirit animal. And if I get to meet her, I'm going to give her a giant hug because she helped me, and she probably doesn't even know that she helped me, but she's helping so many people.
Absolutely.
That specific thing. But, I think you do have to put yourself in the driver's seat, know that you're always in the driver's seat, and really take that next, even if it's a baby step.
Hey everybody, this is Simone Morris, the host of the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I want to talk to you today about a wonderful workshop that I will be hosting in Stamford, Connecticut on July 27th. And guess what? It's also called The Power of Owning Your Career. This is an experience that you do not want to miss. You know why? Because you want to take your career to the next level. You want to be in the driver's seat for your career. You have some big dreams, and I want to help you make them a reality. Here's some of the things that we're going to cover in the workshop. Number one, I want you to leave confident that you can make your next career move. Sometimes we get wounded in our careers and we get stuck or stalled and we don't know how to move forward. So I want to give you the confidence that you need to move forward. The next thing is answers to the burning career questions. This is a hot one that has come up in the previous workshops that I've given. And the nice thing is I've assembled a nice cast of experts that are going to talk to you about their career journey, how they got to the driver's seat, strategies for networking, building relationships, and answer your questions. So you don't want to miss Minda Harts, Sheila Wall, Shannon Daniels, Tracy Imm, and myself answering your career questions. Additionally, you're going to get tools to help you with networking. Some of us do not like networking, so we want to reframe the conversation around networking and talk to you about how to build strategic relationships for career success. You don't want to miss this. I am excited to be bringing Owen Company to the workshop again. They do an amazing job of capturing the professional headshot. You want to have a professional headshot for things that you're doing in your career because it's a part of your personal brand. So that's something else that we'll be doing at the workshop. And finally, even though there's a lot more great things, but finally, I want to draw to your attention that we create a plan of action for moving your career forward. So if you are interested and ready to take your career to the next level, go to www.pooycexperience.com. Again, it's www.pooycexperience.com. And get your ticket. Take a chance. Take a leap. Come on out and learn something. And believe me, you're going to walk away feeling more confident about the driver's seat and about the next chapter in your career. See you on July 27th in Stamford, Connecticut. I think you alluded to this. Can you think of a time that you avoided responsibility in your career and what you did to overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a couple times, even though I had moved on after I'd been laid off or, let go from an organization for a variety of reasons, I would hold on to that. And I wasn't taking 100% responsibility. And I did stay in that victim in that blaming energy. And once I kind of unshackled myself from that and I said, okay, nobody cares about what happened to me in the past. I'm the only one walking around with that heavy backpack with rocks in it. Where am I going to go from here? And I did a true deep dive into what are my skills and my gifts? What are things that interest me? What do I like to do? I like to teach. I like to coach. I like to create content. I like to have conversations, and then how can I channel that into a business? And that's really when I started my side hustle. And I said, okay, I'm going to be a side hustler and I'm going to figure this stuff out. And I'm going to create a life beyond my wildest dreams and this journey. And it's going to be sort of the last third of my working career. And I'm going to really go out with a bang and I'm really going to leave a legacy. And so for me, over the last 5 or 6 years, that's what it's been about. It's been about serving other people, leaving a legacy, touching as many people as I can through my work, inspiring people through my work, especially women, and I think I mentioned this to you pre-show banter. I really have decided to take a stand for more women in positions of power globally. And what I mean by that is that what I have seen in my global career, because I've done business in 67 countries.
Wow.
Yeah, right? And I'm claiming that. I'm owning that. It was something that I had that I never claimed, but I'm claiming it, right? I've seen what I've seen, and here's what I know to be true. What I know to be true is that when more women are in positions of power, organizations make better decisions and get better results. And what I mean by that is this is women in government positions, this is women in industry, this is women in nonprofits, this is women in the community, this is women in, whatever dimension of work that is out there. When there are more women in the room influencing decisions that are being made, a more inclusive environment is created, more collaboration takes place, and better results happen because of the decisions that those entities make. And so I feel really strongly and really passionate that this is going to be a big part of my work moving forward. Now that I really have done some deep, deep personal work, and I feel like I'm going to be a leader in this space. And there's a reason why I went through the things that I went through in my career over the decades and decades that I spent, on planes, trains, and automobiles and in industries that, were gobbling up other industries and, divesting and everything that I've been through, that is what I really take a stand for, is that it's time. It's time for more women to have those seats at the table. It's time for more women to be heard. It's just time. And so, where this takes me, I don't know, but I know in my bones that I said yes to this assignment to get that message out there and to really start that movement and to be part of that movement. Because there's a lot of other people that are doing this, right? And a lot of other people, but collectively, we're going to make the world a better place. Collectively, all of our legacies are going to be better, right? And so if some of it starts with like the things that you're saying, like take 100% responsibility for yourself, your career, your life, all of that. And once we become more highly conscious around those types of things, then we will, doors are going to start to open for us and things are going to start to shift and start to change. And it's not going to happen overnight. No.
Well said. Absolutely. Well said. I am 100% with you in the mission and vision. I believe in it. I support it. And absolutely all about women's empowerment. So tell us about some of the resources online or otherwise that you have found to be helpful to you in your career.
Sure. So a couple of things come to mind immediately. There's the wonderful book called What Color is Your Parachute, which I can't remember. I think the guy's name is like Richard Boles or whatever. But that is a really seminal book in career management. What Color is Your Parachute? And you can buy that. They update the edition and stuff like that. It was written probably in the 80s, I think, but it continues to be updated for the world of work. So that's always like a seminal, good book to read. The other thing that I have found helpful, and I've done it with my teams in corporate, and I've done it with my private clients, is Strength Finders. So this was birthed out of the Gallup organization that does the surveys, and you can buy it for like $20 and you get a little access code. You can take their little quiz and find out what your strengths are and what type of work you should be doing to play to your strengths. And so the way I would use it with my team is I would get them the book, I would have them take the survey, and then we would look, there's, a list of like 30 things for, the different types of strengths that you might have. And I would try and find assignments for people that were on that list. So it's a simple way to come up with like a simple action plan through a simple quiz. So I always recommend that. And the price is a low price point. Online, there's a lot of resources out there. The one that kind of resonates with me is a lady named Anna Runyon. And she runs she's got a podcast. She's got an academy. It's called The Classy Career Girl. And she puts out some great content, a bunch of free videos and things of that nature. And she talks about her career journey and how she was a corporate gal, started with a side hustle, and then now she's making, I think, 7 figures being a career coach. And she's got a lot of wisdom. Her content, I think, is really good. But she's somebody that I think puts good information out there around career management. So those are the 3 that I always try and recommend to people.
I love that. 2 of those I know about. And Strength Finders was a big thing for a while. Stop focusing on your weaknesses.
Correct.
Organizations adopting that model. And I actually saw, is that Marcus Buckingham? Is that his?
I think so. And Tom Roth, I think, is the other researcher. Mm-hmm.
I saw him speak at the ATD conference, and he was just amazing. So I'm a big fan of the Strength Finders work, and I do know about What Color is Your Parachute, but I did not know about that podcast, so I will have to check that out as well. I'm definitely interested in that. So, Tracy, this has been an amazing conversation, short and sweet, with lots of nuggets, lots of good stuff. So, thank you so much. How can our listeners connect with you?
Sure. So, I think, I like to hang out on Instagram. And I'm just at Tracy Imm, TracyImm, and I just share my real life and what I'm doing and where I'm going and what I'm experiencing. So I try to show up as authentically as I can. I'm also on Twitter at TracyI365, and my home base is really TracyImm.com. So I kind of, decided to claim that I had a personal brand, and I have a website which is sort of home base, and I do have a podcast, like you mentioned, The Brave Girls with Tracy Imm. And my show is on iTunes and all the places, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. And I drop an episode every week. I interview women about their stories and what they're here to share with other women. I wanted to create a global platform to showcase the stories of women and have some real authentic conversations with other women. I committed to doing 52 episodes, and I'm up to, I think, episode 42. And awesome. The women's stories and what they're here to teach are amazing. They're very inspiring. The podcast has been downloaded in 36 countries, which just is exactly what I wanted. I wanted more women to be showcased to other women. But yeah, so those are probably the best places to find me. And every day I'm putting new stuff out. I'm hustling just like you are, Simone, trying to get the word out, trying to inspire peeps. And just, really share my gifts with the world and leave a legacy for other women to really step up into becoming better leaders.
Awesome. Well, that was a nice tie it neatly in a bow. So thank you so much. And we have totally enjoyed you being on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. It is my hope that you enjoyed today's episode. You can check out the show notes for this episode on the SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org website by clicking the podcast menu. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and tell a friend or two about it.